Hey guys, I've got a 30-minute game up against a player rated 857. Okay, so we've got the Vienna, e4, e5, knight 2, c3. And then on the second move, black's brought out the queen to f6. Now that's kind of begging for knight d5, really. So the issue with knight d5 is we're attacking the queen and we're attacking f7, so really the queen's only got two options. Let's come all the way back to d8 or to d6. Maybe... just thinking if I brought my knight out here and grabbed that pawn, but from there you see the queen's still defending c7, so that's not a goer. I'll bring my bishop out. Let's follow some principles. Don't start attacking on move 3. Especially seeing as there's a very rational defence. Yeah, it kind of wins the tempo, it kind of improves my knight. Okay, so this is a very basic kind of scholar's mate threat here, which I think I can block with knight f3. Pretty happy with that. It is my first game of the day, so I'm not exactly wide awake at this point. But now I think d3 and bringing out this bishop to there. Now that's an unusual move, because this bishop's already out in the board. So the bishop's not going to go to g7 and fianchetto. Okay, I can play knight there now. Same difference really, queen has two options. Or I just play d3 with the idea of bringing this bishop out. I quite like that one. To bring the bishop out first and then the idea of knight d5. So if the queen comes back in on this diagonal, well, that bishop would prevent it. The question is which order. If I go here, you see the queen retreats and then bishop g5. Black's got pawn push. Right. However, I'll play bishop first. That looks better. Bishop first. So the queen has to come to one of those two squares, I think. It's one of the issues of bringing your queen out early on in the game. It's very easy to lose tempo. Alright, so now, knight to here, and how does black defend? He's going to have to drop the bishop back here. So I'll go here, bishop drops back to there. Haven't really achieved anything. Should think about maybe castling now. One attacker, one defender, two defenders. Undefended at present. To try harassing this bishop. If it drops back to here, then I can come into there. Oh no, because if it drops back it's defending the pawn on c7. What do we castle now? I'm a bit ahead in development. I've got 4 pieces out on the board to black's 3. I'm one step away from castling where black is not, because of losing tempo. We've got a fianchettoed queen, which is an oddity. The question is how to increase the pressure, how to capitalise. This queen's actually really, really bad now. Queen's got nowhere to go. Are there any other threats of having my knight here on d5? Can't really come to there. It does improve the knight. Let's just improve the knight. Force this bishop to do something. And it also then kind of locks the bishop in the defence of c7, which reduces black's options. This knight It's going to struggle to come out. It can't really come out to f6. So this is the principle of controlling the board very much in action, you see. Right. I'm inclined just to drop up my queen and maybe castle long. Start sending my pawns up there. Yeah. Black is now suffering from a lack of space. And when you are getting crushed like that and you're down on space, then okay. So this knight's attacking this knight, no biggie. Knight's the only defender of that, but that's alright, it's not actually attacked. I could just go ahead and castle, or takes. Kind of like that. Yeah, it improves things slightly for this bishop. Okay. Now I think I want to castle. The pawn's in the way of this queen. Queen still can't go here or here. Only got one square that it can travel to. Still the threat of knight takes c7. It's constantly hanging overhead. I may get a rook on the e-file and send the e-pawn up. With that, even rook here, e5, would force this bishop somehow away from, it can't really go anywhere down there, it's going to have to go back to here. So rook e1, e5, bishop retreats, boom. Okay, well this is good. Now if the bishop wants to swap itself off, fantastic. I think we capture with f, open up the f file, near the king, got a bishop lurking there. All good. I wouldn't like to play black in this situation, even though material's equal. It's, I mean, this is the big issue. Black has not completed development, and one of the reasons why black has not completed development, okay, I'm going to initiate the exchange of bishops, and I'm going to win the exchange out of this. Okay, and check. Now the king has to move as well, so that's goodbye castling rights. Right, let me just grab the rook here. Might grab a pawn on my way out, just break things open. Yeah, that's the issue with bringing your queen out so early, you see. Now black is down a whole rook and can no longer castle. Okay, now it's time to slow down and consolidate. We've got tripled pawns here. Okay, let's goldfish. See what's defended and what is not. Undefended. Undefended. Okay. And on my side I've got one undefended pawn there, and that's it. So these are targets. The queen here, maybe target this one and try and come in. Let's just solidify. F3, build the light square pawn structure. Black's only got a light square bishop, so pawns on light squares will shut out the bishop, and I still have every single blessed pawn on the board. I'm wanting to finish a game with all my pawns. Okay. Now I can go here, There may be an exchange of pieces, or I can simply grab the pawn. So if I go here, takes, pawn takes, yeah, not great. Let's grab the pawn. That's a desperado move. And now I think queen here. I'm looking at two undefended pawns. This one comes with check as well. I can capture there. Okay, good move. King defends both. So I am an exchange and a pawn up at this point. Right. I'm feeling like the A file should be the main channel here. That would mean kind of getting my king out of the way, bring a rook across, throw the A pawn up. I've got to make progress towards that king somehow, so let's do that. Could even push here. I've got the pawns, let's shut things off, let's use them. I'd like to play g3 now. Doesn't really change the situation for this bishop, the bishop's just bad anyway. I move my bishop, I have a check on here. Doesn't really achieve anything. Okay, that's just a prod at the queen. I'll drop back to here. If I go back here, he's got a fork. I'm okay with that. I want to swap off the knight for my bishop, that's fine. Fork there, I'll just go back. Just give the queen a hidey hole as well. Also have now this kind of, you've got three pieces in line there, so if I drop my bishop onto d5, pretty much guaranteed of trading it off for something. Also this pawn now is only defended once by the queen. Okay, saw that one coming. If you want to trade, I recapture with check, it's all good. And these triple pawns are always going to be a liability. If you don't trade, I've got b4, just keep crushing that space down. And I have this. Okay. Now I'm inclined to play bishop d5. Try and force the exchange. Can't see an issue with that. Bishop takes, queen takes. I'm also then looking at the rook, which is undefended. Okay, looking at that pawn. Let's just play g3 and protect the pawn. This is still hanging effectively. So I could grab that and then come back and try and swap off with this bishop. So it's interesting that black's problems seem to start on move 2 when they move their queen out to this square. And why develop your queen that early? I mean, you are just introducing a huge risk of losing a lot of time in development. And when you lose time in development, you don't get your pieces out on the board. When you don't get your pieces out into the board, you lose control of squares, you lose space, you lose initiative. There's so much that can go wrong right in the opening. Move 2. Okay, I'm just going to trade off now. I could have grabbed that pawn. Alright, so this is now a bit simpler. I need to get my rooks into the game, but in order to do that I need to break up my pawn structure, which I don't want to do. But hey. Okay, what's undefended? That pawn. Is h4 a move? Takes, takes. Or do I go for the centre? But queen here, and then e5. Takes, takes. Nah. Put a rook on c1, play c4. That seems to make more sense. Just in general, having a major piece, so a rook or a queen, in line with your opponent's king, just creates the possibility of a future threat. This queen is now very stretched. The only defender of those 3 pawns, that one's undefended. This rook's defending nothing at all. Okay. And if I go in, just play queen up. Takes, doesn't do anything. Now there, if queen takes back, she's undefending that pawn on f7, so I can grab that. So I clearly cannot choose the wine in front of you. Ah! You found another one, and with check. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Here, check. Back to here. Could end up with a perpetual here. I'm not very careful. Well, that was just foolish, wasn't it? Right, okay. I have to go here, otherwise I drop the rook. Now she goes back. I've got this. Okay. This is interesting. If I get the chance, I've got queen takes f7. That was just a silly blunder, wasn't it? Capturing that pawn. Forgot to ask the question, what am I undefending if I move this pawn? Okay, knights come in, that's good. Okay, that means I can grab that pawn with check. And then drop my queen back in here. Right, I think I saved my bacon there. So I think white here could have forced the draw. Alright. Now we have to be careful. I've got check here, capture that pawn, but I'm inclined to try and eradicate the queen. Something like bring queen back to f1. Here, I don't like having that queen in my territory. So I'm going to play my queen back here now. Try and swap off. Very silly error to let the queen behind my lines after making such a big fuss about having all my pawns. I just broke my structure. The queen here, get a rook on the open file. Rook f8 would be super. Right, okay. So queen here now. Can't go there. She's got that, or retreating up this diagonal. King here, rooks together. So moved quickly. That actually traps the queen. So does this. Rook g3. The queen's defending that pawn. Oh, nothing's defending that pawn. Huh. Doesn't trap the queen at all. That's pretty good. Take, knight takes, check, king retreats. That's okay. Oh. Curious. It's like some of those bot games where you feel like you get ahead and then suddenly they get their act together in the ending. Expecting knight takes e4, in which case I'm just going to drop back here. Yeah. Okay, no good checks. Queen, there's a check, but again, just drop back. There's another check. Same issue. This check's no good, pawn takes. And I've got rook e1. At least force exchange of rooks. It's quite sharp though now. Let's be careful. Pawn's hanging. Queen there, or simply rook there. Okay, if I take, queen takes, should Should be okay. Knight there's always a potential issue. Hmm. £8-5-7. This is a very respectable performance. I need to take the initiative on this game. Okay, so that's setting up a discovered attack, but yeah, it's very easy to move. Rook here. So where's he going to jump to? It doesn't really matter. He's got 4 or 5 places he can go to. You just grab this pawn. He's probably going to have to do it with check. Okay, let's say I grab the pawn, he goes there with check, I have to move back, which is fine. Okay. If he doesn't move with check, we simply exchange queens. Okay, that's not with check. Okay, could have gone here, in which case I'd have had to have moved the king, but now I can just swap off queens. And that's good for me. Okay. Just shuffle this pawn and rook up now. I think black's only chance was to keep the queens on the board. Alright, this isn't a problem. I want to defend that pawn, so let's kick the knight away. Attacking 2 pawns there. Takes this one, I think I'll push d4. So in the end game, your attention switches to what do I have to do in order to secure a win, or the best possible result, which may be a draw. Okay, he's attacking my pawn. So if black's going to win, he really is going to have to promote. The rook's the only defender of that. Now, is there something that I could do, like check? Rook can't block. No, not really. Okay, so I'm putting my rook there instead of here, because just to avoid the temptation of a knight attack. Now the idea is push this pawn up. If the rook grabs the pawn, then it undefends the knight. There's 2 attackers on there. Second defender. And now Harry's on his way. Might be Gary actually. Is it Gary the G-pawn? Yeah, it has to be. This has to be Harry because he's still on his starting block. Right, not sure the purpose of that. Can't go there, you see. Can't even attack my rooks until this moves, so Let's go. Go on, Gary, son. Okay, that attacks the knight and defends the pawn. That will fork that and that, but I ain't bothered. Rook is covering both the pawn and defending the knight. So if I take a knight taste, that's a fork on both rooks. Interesting. Okay, well let's go on, Gary. See what you can do, mate. Yeah, Gary. What are you going to do, Black? You've got to stop that. Okay, now I take the knight. Now if I take the knight, the rook is in a bind now. Big problems. Okay. Now let's see what we can do. Let me get my pieces up the board. Could have forced an exchange of rooks there. Can't now. I'd trade, but I'd be trading both rooks. Okay, that's the start of like a ladder, mate. So he's got to come this way now. And then actually, I win the rook, don't I? No, he has to put the cast here. You put the king behind it, mate. Yeah. Right, well this should be straightforward now, because now if I get my rook on the e file, that quarantines the king in this part of the board, and now Harry can go on and continue Gary's work. And now the king's only got a little bit of the board. Let's try and finish off in style. With king opposition. Opposition again. Okay, we have a resignation. Good. Interesting game. I nearly lost my grip at one point, but look at this. I think this, move 2. This is the point at which my opponent started to lose his grip. Just bringing the queen out that early, right? So look at development. 3 against 2. 3 against 2. This move baffled me. Having already brought out the dark square bishop, to play this kind of fianchetto move didn't make any sense. It doesn't stop the knight coming in there, doesn't stop the bishop coming in there. Don't see what it does. Okay, it's developed at 3-3. Now, 4-3. Okay, I've brought out my 4th piece, and this queen suddenly has to go and hide under the covers. I mean, this awful place to put a queen. It's only got 2 squares now, and now the knight comes in and starts to maraud. Now my queen improves. We have a small trade of knights. Try and kicking the bishop away. But the big issue here is we're on, what, move 10, 11, something like that, and that king is still stuck in the middle of the board. Trade. King has to move, down in material, and you know, you're fighting from behind already. And it's all because of that queen coming out into the board. Okay, so good lesson there, I think, guys. If you're sub 1000, think very, very carefully before firing Her Majesty out into the middle of the pitch that early on in the game. It really wasn't necessary. I don't see any point for it. I think the only thing he was thinking about was trying to get a kind of scholar's mate on f2, as far as I can tell, with that move. But, you know, that's unlikely to work against somebody over 1000. So there you go. Interesting little game. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've picked up 1 or 2 things. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you later.